predictions are, everyone has one, put it that way. It's like opinions. It's just an opinion. So I think it doesn't matter. I'll say it doesn't matter. What matters is what the agents is doing. So in every market, right now, there are agents that are crying over the worst year ever. It's the economy. They're blaming the interest rates, which are actually pretty good in the whole history of rates. And they're crying, and there are other agents that are just knocking it out. They don't pay attention to any of the noise. They know what's going on. They know what's happening. They know interest rates aren't 3%, which was totally fake. They know all that. They just work through it. They work with it. They don't let it all get in their way. And I don't care, like we were saying earlier, every market is shifting consistently and constantly.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. Today, I'm excited to have all the way from North Carolina, Joe Arnao, who is the owner of 4W Strategic Consulting. He comes with us with about 20 years of experience in real estate. What I like about Joe is that he was an agent, he was a broker, he's worked at bigger companies, worked at a smaller company, and he's also the host of the Real Joe Show podcast. And with all that experience, he's able to help coach and train and mentor agents from around the country. So with that, Joe, thank you for coming on the podcast this week.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. So you between being an so people always think that we're nuts, right? Where you're an agent, and then all of a sudden you want to be a broker. What made you decide that you wanted to do the leap from being, a self-sufficient agent to then running your own brokerage?
Yeah, it's a little complicated. So I was working for a developer at the time. I had opened up his a brokerage inside his firm so we could broker his own deals and find new deals for him, keep it all in house. And then in 2006, end of 2006, we started feeling the pain of a slowdown. We were on Cape Cod. We were one of the first areas to feel it. So we didn't know what the heck was happening. So I decided that he wasn't doing well, and he wasn't gonna do well, wasn't gonna stay afloat. So I opened up my own brokerage so that that piece could keep going. I took on his inventory and another investor's inventory, and I opened up in New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. So we covered all the areas that we were developing in. And the real goal was number one was to serve his properties. And two, the real reason was I didn't want to carry a bag my whole life. I didn't want to be in sales the entire time. I get my jollies, call it, I guess, to my fulfillment by helping others grow. And I really wanted to build a firm that was able to supply the education, the tools, the strategies that could help agents grow, and where I would really just be the leader of that and not actually be selling. So that was my driving force in all of that. And that's a hard thing to pull off as a individual.
That's true. So it's interesting. So I started. I'm about 8 years in real estate, and I basically have been the broker owner for about 6 of those 8 years. I'm a little bit more than that. And I actually wanted to do my brokerage because I didn't want to have to listen to what other companies said. This is the way we've done it. Or I wanted to be able to put my thinking cap on and think outside the box and come up with creative, special ways to make deals to get to the closing table, right? Because in the end of the day, we're, being resourceful and getting deals closed is that's more of our secret sauce, right? It's clearly not opening a door.
Right.
If opening a door was all we did, it would be computerized already.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, no, that's so true. And it was a lot of fun being on my own, like you're saying, able to stay up on technology. And this is 2007, 8, 9 into 10. And tech was way different than it is right now. I got out of the weeds in 2009 on Craig because of Craigslist. That was like my big coup that I had. I saw other people around the country doing it. No one was doing it on the Cape in any strength. So I captured all, it was crazy. That and YouTube, I really jumped on all that, and it was really fun because I was on my own. I had to be resourceful, had to come up with those ideas, and it was really fun.
So me being only 8 or 9 years in, I came in like, what is it, 17, 18. The market only has gone up and up and up. And you've been in it through the long haul where, the recession and, things just sitting, newer, while I look as old as you, I might be older, but you were in it in the trenches for early on, but the people that are newer to real estate don't
That's
understand
right.
that there are ebbs and flows, right there. Not everything goes up. Right. It's the other thing in markets that are insane and go up, a lot of people can work and find and get deals, but it's like you've been there through multiple cycles, and so it's which probably makes you such a better coach, right? Because you've been through multiple types of economies, and so you're able to say, what are the things that you need to do? What do you need to be looking at, and how do you refocus? And right, refocusing and pivoting is probably extremely important in our business.
Absolutely. You got to be flexible in this business and be willing to reinvent. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck. We talk about these major swings that you just mentioned, yet the market shifts on a monthly basis at any given point. Something different is happening. And yeah, sometimes it's a much bigger scale, yet there's always shifts happening. And the agents need to be able to pivot, like you were saying, pivot with that and pay attention to it and be willing to try things that might make them feel uncomfortable.
Well, back in the day before the internet, you would have to go into a brick and mortar real estate office. You'd meet with somebody. You they'd flip through a book. You point to a couple of houses, and they take the keys that were in the book, and let's go check a couple houses. And you would do that per town, right? And you would only be seeing houses that are in that town and not towns next to it, which is interesting because my buyers now, when they come in, it is so I cover New York and Connecticut. Westchester County is probably the county that I do more often, but there's you go a little bit north. People, it's funny because when people come in on a specific house, the chances of them buying that house or even in that town
Right.
is low, right?
Yeah.
Because the internet is this thing that allows people to see many, many different areas and broaden where they would consider living, probably more so than certainly in the history of real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, I never had that book experience that had gone out before, right before I got into this. Being on the Cape, to your point, is when someone wants to buy a house on the Cape, sometimes they know exactly what town they want to be in, and sometimes they just say, I want to be on Cape Cod. And it's a 60-mile long county. So you had to be versatile and understand the different towns and how they work. Some agents wouldn't do that. They would just stick to where they are. Like you go down like Provincetown. There are agents that just focus on Provincetown or Chatham or Sandwich, whatever it is. Yet so many times you'll have someone walk into an open house. I'll call you online or on the phone, whatever it is, and they would look at a house in Sandwich at a certain price point, and they end up buying something in Chatham at a ridiculous price point because it's a different in that scenario it's a different buyer where it's it's money that it's they have extra funds so they can do things differently, and you have to be flexible. You have to be able to understand the different towns. And one of the biggest things, and you probably feel this too, is knowing the agents in those towns and who the players are, and having them know who you are helps greatly with when you bring in a deal to somebody, an offer, and they know who you are. That's a big deal. That helps.
So what's interesting is me coming late in, so I'm not new to business or new to the world, being an older person getting into it. It's like, how am I going to make my way in a world that has people that have been doing it for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, right? How am I going to do it? So I think, and this is probably a lot that what you coach to is that I want to be the best Danny Berger that I can be. I don't need to be the number one agent in my town, my town. I just want to do, I just want, when I want to add value to people. And so I went at it not, I just wanted to be the best me. I didn't need to be the number one, but it by taking that mentality, I started, Zillow was how I got my buyer leads, and I would do small apartments, 50,000, 100,000. And you know what? It turns out that by doing those, I just wanted transactions. I figured the more transactions I did, I would then get experience from that. And those people know people, and buyers become sellers. So it was interesting for me when I started out mostly doing buyers. By I think the third or fourth year, I had 52 transactions. And actually, that year, I had 26 listings and 26 purchases. So
Nice.
it just because even some of the people from the beginning turned into, oh, I want to upgrade or whatever. So, or they had friends and family. So it's there's always an ebb and flow. And I always laugh when I see things about I'm a buyer's agent or I'm a listing agent. I'm like, I'm a real estate agent and I help people buy things, sell things, and rent things, right? Whether it's property or whether it's land or property with structures on it. I want to be known as your guy to help you with whatever you need to do. So it's a little right. So it's like you kind of have to make a broad stroke. And what's interesting is maybe more Cape Cod might be a little different because it is a confined area. My area is, well, it might be actually smaller in length as what you've said, but there's more pockets, and so you don't necessarily know it. It does seem like Cape Cod, at least the specific towns in Cape Cod that you were discussing, is is a little bit more like you need to prove yourself to all the agents because when a listing agent, you know, Joe better his last deal that he had, you better crossed eyes, dotted I's, crossed T's, and got to the closing table and not have surprises. Because the next time you have an offer that you're going to put in there, like,
Right.
that Joe, it didn't work and he, whatever. So yeah, all we have right is our honor and our work ethic and to make and our right and to do the best that we can every single day, because that I think does lead down the road.
Yeah. You mentioned early on that you were looking at all these people that have been in the business. So how are you going to compete? Well, trying to compare yourself to anybody is crazy because what you see on the surface has sometimes very little reality of what's actually going on. And a lot of people get hung up, a lot of new agents get hung up on trying to compete with these people. And when you came down to it, in the end of what you were saying, it's the relationships, it's building trust, it's phone calls, it's staying in touch with people, it's making sure they understand you're going to be their guide and you're going to help them through the process. And that's where most of the coaching comes back to really basics. It's staying in touch with people, having conversations, and caring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always felt that I work for my review, not for a paycheck. Because if at the end of the deal is done and
Yeah.
I can send someone a link to do a review on me and they give me 5 stars, that's that means that I satisfied them. And guess what? I'm gonna now get referrals from them or when they have because I sat so I that is my goal. My why is to do everything that I can to get a good review, not just a good review, a stellar review, and that's hard. That means I'm always holding my phone and I'm returning messages, I'm communicating, I'm trying to be proactive and uncovering things that they don't know could be a problem and to get out in front of things. And so I knew that I wasn't going to be the biggest or the best, but I could at least work so hard. Maybe I would out hustle them, right? Especially being in the beginning and also being so new to real estate. I had like a passion for it, right? Where if I was doing it for 25, 30 years, I don't know, because I only know me and I'm so passionate about it now, but maybe I would be not this, I wouldn't be the same agent if I'd been doing this since I was in my 20s, right? So,
Sure.
you know, so that kind of drives me, right? The drive to add value and then it kind of gets contagious, right? Where your clients see that and they're like, when do you sleep? I get that. Like my reviews are like the guy's always available because that was what I wanted to do to differentiate myself from. And it's hard because when someone's looking at who they should pick, they might not necessarily know because it's not like, oh, this person's this person's that. But people can, on using online stuff, they can they can Google you and see what people are saying about you. And so that's kind of where I built my business, is trying to get the best things said about me. And when I do go to listing agreements or meet people, I'm like, how did you get in touch with me? They're like, oh, I saw on YouTube you had a podcast, or I saw this review, I saw your reviews, I saw your Zillows, I saw your Googles. Someone actually said, two people have said recently, I asked AI to pick the best agents
Wow.
in Rybrook, where I live, and I must have been top three, and then they must have called, and I don't, maybe they called three of us, maybe only two of us answered, right? So sometimes it's you're going to get it from just following up and being there. Sometimes gets it.
Yeah, I did a survey over the summer. I dialed 600 plus agents. The 30% picked up the phone, and that was it. And of the 70 that didn't, 4% of them called back.
So
So
that's funny because I agree. Picking up the phone's important, but also maybe somebody who's really busy and good is is scheduled and doing showings, and it's the person that's sitting at home because they don't have any business. So answering the phone when you can is extremely important. I agree. But if you can't pick up the phone and you have that message, should definitely return it. Although what's really hard though is there's so much spam and so much, right?
yeah,
So it's like, how do you get through that? So that's part of what we have to do as agents, is what looks important, how do you communicate with everybody. And there, I get texts all the time that I could tell is like things that don't seem legit, so I block them or whatever. But it's hard, and with the world, the way that technology is, it's hard to always know, is it real, and how to return it. But picking up the phone and talking to people, I think, is so important.
it's a lot quicker to answer a phone, even if it's a spam call, and hang up real quick because you can tell instantly if they're not saying hello. You just click hang up,
Yeah,
than it is to look at it, look it up online, or dial later. If you have the second and it takes a couple seconds, it's hello, boom. If you don't hear hello right back, boom, I'm away.
yeah.
Missing one call, one sign call, or one, we all know consumers are super fast to move on to something else and lose focus. We all dial within seconds of getting a lead, or you're not gonna have a chance. So, I mean, now they're doing with AI. So I mean, it's like that. People can't get those phone calls right back when they go online and click on something. So if an agent doesn't pick up that phone and misses a human on the other line, they're out. The chances of them getting back in front of that person are really slim because they're doing the same thing the agent's doing. They're not picking up every phone call. So if somebody's calling you and you miss that call, it's thousands of dollars potentially that you'll never even knew you missed.
Probably more than that, because you're also probably going to get a certain amount of referrals from
That's
people.
right.
So it's actually repeat business referrals. So obviously you need to prioritize your day and your output. But yes, that is important. What I also find interesting is people who are leaning towards AI, to where they think that it's making their job better, right? Or easier. And I don't know if making our job easier is what the goal should be, because I can't imagine where someone's calling or texting you and you're having a bot talking to these people when they're reaching out to you, where people think that's a good idea. And I guess I should let people keep doing what they're doing and doing that, because I hate when I'm trying to deal with my cable company and I can't call and speak to someone and I can only do it via text and it's a bot, right? So that's a lot of real estate people are botting replies. And I'm like, I, how many transactions do you really need to, if I did 55 this year, I can double before I still can't answer the phone for everyone, right? So I should be answering the phone. I should be getting back to me, not having a computer generated thing replying to whom, either my current clients or my prospects.
I don't know. It might be, we might be this, you might be the fax machine of the future, not having AI. Who knows, right?
I mean,
I don't know either. And I don't
we
disagree with you.
right. I mean, I still think I'm glad, this is where I'm glad I'm older because I might be able to lay, going at this before my fax machine. The funny thing is, people still need me to fax things. I'm like, I don't have a fax machine. A fax machine? What the hell's that? So it's funny that you still sometimes need that fax machine. So possibly, but I still think that what we do is the hands-on. Our secret sauce is how do we quarterback these deals, and I guess a computer might be able to do it better or more efficient down the road. Maybe. I don't know. But right now, I don't think we're necessarily there yet.
Yeah, I don't
Certainly,
see that. I don't see that because there's so many nuances and that I don't think a computer yet can pick up on all the details that come through and on the transactions, the conversations, the tones of people, the different details that being in the business for 8 years, something that happened 7 years ago relates to what's happening today. Com they're not going to have the computer's not going to have that specific experience. So I don't see them really getting into the transaction side and helping people through the real way I see AI is it is great for attraction. It can hugely save time on the back end, and I don't mean negotiating or anything that I mean in the marketing side, the back end of that efficiencies in the processes is it is going to be limited somewhat on I think on customer interaction.
right. I agree. So with what's also crazy is that half those phone calls that we get are people trying to sell us things, right? I get inundated with people trying to sell me lead services, trying to sell me coaching, they're trying to sell me whatever. And it's like, I'm spending time with my clients, whatever. Clearly I want to do the things, but it's hard to know what things to try. I do try things from time to time because I want to, like the podcast is something, oh, let me try the podcast. Let's see how I can interact with guests, how I can leverage it to make my business, to bring people in and to have this database of podcasts where people can go and see what we're doing. I wrote a book this year. I didn't write it to be the number one seller on the New York Times. Part of it is that I had some interesting stories of working with people over the years, and I thought that there might be interesting stories to tell. And it turns out that it's really that my people that read it, the reviews are like, it was very entertaining. They felt that I was reading it to them or telling them a story that it really was in my persona, and they were fun tidbits of things to learn, and it wasn't preachy, right? Where it wasn't like, this is what you should do. This is more like this is what I did, and and spent the time with clients to go the extra effort. So that's another little thing to have out there, right? A lot of people are like, "Oh, you've only been doing this 8 years, and you wrote a book. I've been doing this 30 years." I said, "And you should write your book." You know,
That's right.
it's a lot easier when people say things and say they're going to do something than to actually do it, right? And you as a coach, you all the time people like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and they don't
Yeah.
do it.
Right, right. Yeah, and I'm one of those people that are calling you to offer my services. And it's not just on the coaching side, it's on the placement you mentioned in the beginning. The placement services, which is not just a call I got to make. I actually have to educate people on what I'm doing because it's not something that exists in the real estate world where an agent is getting coached on their next best fit for a brokerage. Usually they're picking their brokerage because of a great recruiter who's selling the company they work for, not really looking after the real needs of the client of the agent. And then you also have all these other friends of agents that are eager to bring them into their firm because they're going to get revenue share. And so a lot of agents are making some heavy mistakes, expensive mistakes by following friends or chasing shiny objects and not really stopping to understand what they actually need for their business. So when I'm on the phone with somebody, I have to explain that entirety before I can even uncover if they're if they're in need of making a move or in need of my services. So
You
yeah,
know,
I'm one of those guys
for
calling.
so for me, I'm not a person that says you should scale for the sake of scaling, right?
Mm-mm.
Like, because at what point, like, I did 55 deals this year for 40 million in sales. And I'm a broker, right? That's just, so I'm doing it. Let's say I'm doing half the business and the other, and my brokerage is doing the other half. I'm probably on a revenue share. They're probably doing a little bit more on a deal, on volume, but not on revenue. But I don't I don't actually actively recruit people because like how much do I need, And
Right.
so it's also interesting is so I really value that agents are independent contractors. And anytime people say the people that they work for you, I go, no, no, no. Nobody works for me because there are a lot of laws around once you have one employee, there's a lot of rules that you have to follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have zero employees, everyone's independent contractor. But you talked about the things that I like too is that I like mentoring, right? I like mentoring and coaching. So, you get paid to do it. I don't technically get paid because it's involved in, helping, but I do get paid because obviously the more that I coach and 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 am proactive and productive with those people that I'm coaching that happen to be in my brokerage, they're doing better in business. And if they do better, then I do better. So, but there's no fee per se, but there's certainly time and effort that's spent in sharing information, going out on calls, sharing open houses, all that other stuff. So we're both kind of doing a lot the same thing. I'm just someone that loves selling so much that like I always want that I'm able to still be involved in selling. And then I also don't mind helping, coaching, and mentoring because that's I get enjoyment out of that as well.
Yeah. You'll probably find that agents that actually pay to be coached will take the advice, will grow faster, will really dig in and accomplish more than the agents that is getting what they perceive as free advice. I struggled hard when I was a manager and a coach within a firm because there was no stake. The agents could come in, they could listen to me, they could ask questions, they could be great, great, great idea. I'm going to do that, going to do that, and then they're gone. When somebody's paying to have the coaching, they're really paying attention, and their growth and their changes are much quicker than somebody that is a little more casual about it. It's very rewarding to see people change and grow and hit their
So
mark.
I think there's different types of people out there, right? There are the people that feel that if they're in coaching that they'll get better, but they don't commit to doing
No,
anything. So there
no,
you can't help them and you're going to sign them up for the one term of coaching and then they're never going to come back because they don't feel like they're getting value. There are people who need a coach because that's their mentality that they need direction, they need schedule. They need to be, they'll do the effort, but they need to be told what to do because that's how they operate.
right.
And then there's probably a class of people, and I probably fall into this that says I've never ever had a coach and has been able to do what I have without that because I just have it inside me. But that's less people have that where I don't need anyone telling me to work hard. I'm working, late every day. I'm doing all that other stuff because that's just me. But there's less people with that,
Well, it's not necessarily. I don't coach people to always work harder. Sometimes much of it has to do with them working smarter and less. I have an agent I was talking to today. She has a team. She just fired her team, and now because she needed to regroup and reassess, and she's talking about possibly bringing on another agent. I'm trying to talk her out of it because she's working so hard that adding an agent necessarily isn't going to alleviate that and probably add more stress, more diversion, and to for her to her next best step is probably to hire like a showing agent or somebody that's just there to support her so that she can continue to grow and do more deals and have a life.
Yeah. See, for me, I'm anti the showing agent tech because really, you're really telling the client, I'm too busy for you, but I
Mm-mm.
have this junior person who will open the door
Oh,
for you.
well, I didn't say junior.
Well, okay, but a showing agent, you know, they're not a buyer's agent, they're a showing agent, right? They're really just bringing you to all the different. I mean, I think it depends on the person, right? But for me, and again, I think that's what's lovely about what we do. Like it's all individualistic, and you can't cookie cut. I don't think this is how it is with every single person.
Right.
I find out that the clients that I have, they don't want somebody else. They want me, right? So if I try to, and there are ones that I have teams that we equally share, right? I don't, they're not just doing it. So sometimes we do have that. And those have actually, I think, are good, right? Where sometimes they show, sometimes I show. It really depends on the schedule, but we're both involved in offers and working together where it is more like a team component. Some people, I think it really depends, right? But there are other people that I can't, like, at least it's in my head. Well, they have said stuff, but like where I feel like I'm the person, right? It's also different because if you're the broker and they see you and then they don't want necessarily someone else. But I think it also depends on the person, right? So
It's how you present it. So, I know a bunch of agents that they arrive on their either their listing consultation or their buying consultation, and they have an agent with them, and that client's getting two for one. They're getting the lead agent that is going to be negotiating, making sure everybody understands what's going on, keeping everything going. And then the other agent is there to show the houses and do the paperwork. So keep everything running. And the agent is like the surgeon, right? You don't, he's like or she is the surgeon where the surgeon's not doing all the crappy stuff. They're coming in and just doing what they're best at, which is organizing and orchestrating the process and making sure that their expertise is in the negotiations. It's in making sure that the house is prepped if it's a listing, and they physically don't have to be doing all of those things. They can have somebody, the nurse and the or the PA in the doctors in the surgeon scenario.
well, so the funny thing is when you say the PA, I hate when I go to the doctor and it's the PA that's there and it's not the doctor. But from the surgeon perspective, so I think that's the whole point, right? Like so when you go in and you're not feeling well, but you don't see the doctor, you see the PA, you're on, you're the B team. You know that for the most part. I mean, sometimes obviously you could love the PA more than you like the surgeon.
Uh-huh.
That's possible too. But generally using a PA is a way to have a junior person do something because you're not ready for it. But so that's different. But I do agree with the surgery, right? So my view would be as a surgeon, you don't need your surgeon to fill out the healthcare forms and right, not bill you all of that. But so I agree with that part. I don't know about the PA, my perception. The other thing though is that there's a lot. I actually do all my paperwork. I don't have an admin. I have no admin. I do it all, right? And it's not that hard. I
And you
have
do 40 transactions yourself?
55.
55 yourself?
I do every single memo myself.
Wow.
I also do payroll for all of my agents. So, but it's not hard because you're taking a document and you're changing it, right? You're taking a document that you've used and I did two last night. So two memos last night I sent out at 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock in midnight, right? And it was sent to all the different parties. I prepared the deeds, all the information that needed to be done. I sent out. New York's a lawyer state. So I basically sent it out to both of the lawyers and the other agents, said, here's all the information. I had every single thing that I needed. I had deeds, I had, the listing, the memo, everything. Not hard because I have it all. When I get it, I put it into like, in the cloud and I have it and I'm able to attach it. It's not that hard to do. And my view is that every deal, each of those deals was complicated and is different. And by the time I would teach someone to what needed to be in, I could have just done it. I just do it myself because each one has different terms, right? So again, I'm not saying scale for the sake of scaling, right? Where I don't need to do 150 deals a year. I don't need to do that. I guess the one way to scale is to have richer clients, right? Clients that
There you go.
instead of doing a $500,000 house, do $2 million house and $3 million house. Actually, one of them was $2 million. One of them was 1 million, and one of them was 2 million. So, but I do apartments too. So you know what? I think everyone's different. So that's one thing is that, and I know that as a coach, that's what you do. You have to look at who you have, what's their market, who are they marketing to, and do things. But that's where I feel that I'm totally insane and different because I don't have anyone doing like I put signs in the lawns too. Think about that. I don't pay a company to go do it because you know
I'm
why?
holding it back,
No,
Daniel. I'm holding
listen,
back.
no, but like so tell me that I'm not successful. I did $1 million in GCI last year, so if I had 55 and I have 25 listings, that's two a month. So I go and I put the sign in my car. I put it in the lawn, and then I have to set the key anyway. So what's like and people my clients generally like that they don't feel that they feel that if I'm,
Sure, that's what they know.
I'm doing everything right, that I'm not acting like I'm better, different, or special. I'm just me trying to help sell their house,
Yeah, and
but
your definition of success is different from others. And you said it earlier, there's a
100%.
million ways to make money in this business. And it's whatever is right for the individual agent. Just like there's a firm for every agent. Your firm's not
Yeah,
for every agent. Every agent's not for you.
a
So
hundred.
it's
That's
there's
right.
so many different variables.
Well, so I think that's right. So I think if my goal was I wanted to make 3 million in GCI, I don't think I could make three without having much more expensive properties. I probably couldn't triple my business, right? With the way that I'm doing it. But there's also a point that for me, how much do I need to make, right? What is success and so it's success isn't always about more money. And you know
No,
that
not at
because
all.
right, it's more about spending time with your family, spending time with
For
friends
some,
and
yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah.
So the other thing I know is what I think we both can agree with. It's not it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep, right? Because if you're spending a lot of
Oh, in the
money,
business. Oh,
right,
absolutely.
right, right,
100%.
because you can buy this and buy that and pay. I can have an admin, I can have a show, right? So I can make myself look like, oh, look at the Danny Berger team. We have 15 people, but if everyone's getting paid and there's nothing left, then it's like, so at some point, right, moving up the next level and adding expenses. And you also did this during the or at least the recession of 2007, 8, 9, where having a lot of fixed costs could have was problematic, right? So not having fixed costs actually maybe for me it makes me sleep easier at night because I don't really have to worry about what the revenue is because I don't have that much costs. I don't have that much fixed costs.
Right.
So, but I think that's the beauty, and that's why coaching is always going to, your strategic consulting is always going to be there because you would if I hired you to coach me, you would say, well, what's working for me? And then you would come up with, better, different, creative ideas for me to be successful as the person that I am. And then the next person's different.
Well, you sounds like you're hitting all your marks, though, right? You don't.
Well,
It sounds like you got everything running. So you wouldn't
well,
be a good
you're gonna
coach.
laugh at me
Fine.
because I don't goal. That's the other. So you're gonna be like, this is the biggest train wreck. This podcast is
I
who's
love
this
that.
guy?
I
I
love
don't.
that.
So I don't have goals because, and I joke about it with my wife. So I don't have goals in how many houses I'm going to get, what price point I'm going to sell. But what I do have is a work ethic of every day calling people, texting people, right? I do spend money on lead generation so that I can have more people that contact me so that I can move on. But like, I can't say, you know what? I had 25 listings this year. I'm going to have 10% more next year.
Right.
Just people die, people move. I don't know that, but I can make sure that I'm doing all the things that I can, that when people are ready to buy, sell, or or lease, that somehow my name comes up, or they think about me from the newsletter that I do, the podcast, and I get a phone call. So at least I get a chance to step up to the plate and let people know what I'm about. So maybe they'll pick me, right? So that I
Yeah,
can do. But so that's, but again, it is about the hard work. So that doesn't ever change. You have to, the hard work you have to do. But for me to say how many deals I'm going to have next year, I never even think about that. And now some people have been doing this more every. I'm kind of lucky, and I'm knocking on wood. Every single year, I've done better than I did the year before, and I know that that's going to end soon because it can't keep continuing. We're just in a
why not?
crazy market right now. You're right. You're like, well, maybe it could.
Yeah,
Well, you're
yeah,
like,
why
if you
not?
followed my coaching advices, it could continue. But since you're, since you're not, it won't. But that's okay.
I would never say that.
No,
No,
but
it's
but I
setting goals can be, it's a double-edged sword, right? So if an agent makes it too big and they don't hit it, they don't feel like they were successful. And then if they make a goal that's too achievable, they hit it and they're like, oh yeah, I made it too low.
and
So it's this weird dichotomy when you get into goal setting. So it's almost healthy not to have one. As long
I
as you
I
know what you're going to do every day,
right. I
you're going to do
saw
good.
I saw someone that did social media of every person they helped, and I think they set up like 35 for the year, and they didn't make it. And I'm like, I was like, I didn't like, and it was this whole social media thing about, and then he's like, yeah, we didn't get to know. I'm like, I didn't like that because I thought what the person I'd like to the person's a good agent. I like the person, but like you picked a random number that whatever, and that shouldn't be the success. If
Yeah.
you only had 28 instead of 35, but you achieve success with those 28 people, that's probably a good year. You know, so I agree 100% with you. I think he minimized his own efforts by doing it that way. When I felt bad for him, like I'm sitting here, I'm like, that's because you set up a game that had it, and even if you made it, what is that? Like you could have done more rentals to get there or whatever. But again, that I don't know if that number is what should achieve success.
Right.
So but you're right. It's how do what's your frame of reference, and what are you going to view as success is so important, right? The mentality and your psyche. I mean, we're independent contractors. People say no to us all the time. So set yourself up for success, not for potential failure with a bad game plan.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true.
So
Yeah,
do you
you
see,
can really demoralize yourself if you're setting goals too high.
and I just put a bag over my head so that I'm like, oh, I'm just, out there, but I am out there every day with no admin, but that's a whole other story. What do you see, what do you see going into this current year? What do you see the market is, or how things are going to change, in the real estate industry from either from the industry or even from an agent perspective?
That's who knows. Predictions are everyone has one. Put it that way. It's like opinions. It's just an opinion. So I think it doesn't matter. I'll say it doesn't matter. What matters is what the agents is doing. So in every market right now, there are agents that are crying over the worst year ever. It's the economy. They're blaming the interest rates, which are actually pretty good in the whole history of rates, and they're crying, 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 and there are other agents that are just knocking it out. They don't pay attention to any of the noise. They know what's going on. They know what's happening. They know interest rates aren't 3%, which was totally fake. They know all that. They just work through it. They work with it. They don't let it all get in their way. And I don't care, like we were saying earlier, every market is shifting consistently and constantly. So there's the agents that are going to be successful. The ones that won't get pushed aside are those that are able to stay nimble. They're paying attention to what's happening locally that matters, really. That's going to impact the way they operate. That's going to impact their clients. They're not listening to this worldwide bunch of crap that's going on, and they just focus on what matters. And you mentioned earlier, if they focus on the experience, on delivering a phenomenal experience, the money's going to come. And if they're doing like you're doing every day, they're speaking to people. That's the business, is talking to people. You can't you can't go wrong as long as you're trustworthy, you're doing the right thing, and you're making the calls, you're in front of people, and you're providing a service that at a high level that people are going to give you 5 stars for. Your business is going to grow. There's just no doubt. There's no doubt about it. And I don't care what market you're in. There's ways to there's always a way to make money in this business.
I agree. I think that's a great way to end this episode. I think it's all about, and again, it's like you're the driver of the words that come out of your mouth and how you feel about things and how other people say. There's all this noise with political. It's like, you know what? They all stink, right? This side, that side, whatever. But if that's going to hold you back if you actually are focused on that. And, during a pandemic, people people shut down. I didn't shut down because there were ways around getting it where, okay, maybe you weren't allowed, if it was vacant, that people could go in. You could have the owners of the house were still allowed to show. So I never really shut down. You just follow the rule. You're like, okay, gloves, mask,
Yep.
whatever. And then you keep, so my business picked up because other people shut down. And like, there's no point of that. People still needed to buy and sell, and that there were still legal ways around doing all that. And so in anything, you can either be like, oh my God, the sky is falling, or you're going to be like, how am I going to hold the sky up a little bit
Right.
and try to do whatever. So I agree 100% that it's all about the mentality and stay with it, and things will always change. So pivot, right? This is what's happening to me. How am I going to pivot? Let's make it happen. So
That's right.
I agree. So Joe, thank you so much for the talk today. It was I loved throwing some curveballs at you of like, who is this guy? And he's putting in his own signs and he's doing 55 deals in his, whatever. But I think that's the point, is that everyone operates differently. So if we always know that our clients are different, our
That's right.
agents are different, we're all different. And so, how do we all figure that out? And like you said, if you put in the effort, there's a way in our business to make money, and there always has been, and there probably always will be, but we don't know. And so don't worry about what we don't
Right.
know. Just keep working. So I wish you and your family the best for a new year. Thank you for coming on the show. And so, Joe, if people need help with 4W Strategic Consulting, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm on all the channels. LinkedIn's probably the best. If you're on LinkedIn, just it's Joe Arnao. It's how Arnao. It's Arno. It's Arnao. And LinkedIn is probably where I am the most. And I'm also on Facebook and YouTube. I got a channel there for a lot of the shows. I like you. You mentioned the show earlier. I've been meeting people like yourself and others that are doing business all kinds of different ways. And yeah, so YouTube, I'm out there.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Joe. Again, thanks everyone. Thank you everyone for coming, for listening in to this week's episode of the Adventures of Real Estate Broker. Until next time, thank you very much.
It's great, Daniel. Thank you.
If today's stories opened your eyes, wait till you see what's next. Hit the video on screen to join the next adventure with Daniel Berger.